Here is the complete expanded script written out continuously from start to finish. It is fully fleshed out with deep historical narratives, psychological analysis, and heavy philosophical reflection, designed specifically to sustain a long-form video of 30 to 40 minutes when read at a calm, deliberate, and authoritative pace with natural pauses. The Rule of Three Silences. The Code of the Strong. The world today is a theater of noise. Look around you. Everyone is shouting. Everyone is desperate to be heard, desperate to be validated, desperate to be seen. We live in an era where oversharing is mistaken for authenticity, and where the loudest voice in the room is often mistaken for the strongest. But history tells a completely different story. The most powerful figures to ever walk the earth shared a secret that is rarely written in modern textbooks. They knew a fundamental truth that our society has forgotten. A man's greatest weapon isn't what he says, but what he chooses to hide. They understood that words are like currency. The more you throw them around carelessly, the less value they hold. They didn't win their empires, their battles, or their internal peace by shouting louder than their enemies. They won by mastering the devastating art of absolute silence. When we look at the ruins of ancient Rome or the cold marble statues of the great Stoic philosophers, we aren't just looking at art. We are looking at the remnants of a culture built on internal sovereignty. Men like Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of the known world, or Epictetus, a slave who broke his mental chains to become a master of philosophy, did not waste their breath. They practiced a rigorous, unforgiving code. Today, we are going to dissect that code. We are going to uncover a forgotten doctrine, the Rule of Three Silences. This is not a guide on how to be shy, passive, or submissive. Do not confuse silence with weakness. True silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of total, absolute control. It is a cold, calculated state of mind used by high-value individuals to guard their energy, dismantle their enemies, and build an unshakable fortress within themselves. If you are someone who talks too much, if you constantly feel the need to explain your actions to people who do not care, if you expose your plans before they are ready, or if you let every minor provocation ruin your day, your power is leaking through an open wound. You are making yourself predictable. You are making yourself vulnerable. You are making yourself incredibly easy to ignore. To stop being overlooked and start commanding a heavy, undeniable presence, you need to apply a blade to your life. You need to cut out the noise. Let us begin the deep descent into the three specific types of silence that will transform you from a pawn into a king. The first pillar of this code is the silence of provocation. To understand this silence, we must first look at how the modern world operates. Daily life is an endless stream of psychological traps. A toxic coworker makes a passive-aggressive comment during a meeting. A stranger insults you online or cuts you off in traffic. An insecure acquaintance tries to belittle your achievements under the guise of a joke. In every single one of these moments, a test is taking place. Most people fail this test instantly. Their ego takes over, their blood pressure rises, their chest tightens, and they immediately fire back with an insult, an argument, or an emotional justification. They believe that by shouting back they are defending their honor. But the harsh reality is completely the opposite. When you react to a provocation, you have just become a puppet. The person who insulted you is now holding your strings. With a single sentence, they decided when you get angry. With a single gesture, they stripped you of your logic and dictated your emotional state. They wanted a reaction from you because your reaction is a feast for their insecurity. Your anger gives them power. Your frustration validates their existence. The Stoics had a specific concept for this. They taught that between the stimulus, the thing that happens to you, and your response, there is a space. In that space lies your absolute freedom. The weak man collapses that space to zero. He reacts instantly, like an animal driven by instinct. The strong man expands that space. He steps back mentally. He observes the insult, but he does not absorb it. Imagine a scene from ancient history. Cato the Younger, a legendary Roman statesman and a devout Stoic, was standing in public when a man walked up to him and spat directly into his face. In Roman society, this was the ultimate humiliation, an insult that usually demanded a violent response or a duel. The crowd held its breath, waiting for Cato to explode in rage. Instead, Cato wiped the spit from his face, looked calmly at the man, and said, "I will swear to anyone, sir, that you spit, but I am not yet sure if I should be angry." Think about the psychological devastating weight of that response. Cato did not scream. He did not hit the man. By maintaining his silence and his calm, he made the attacker look pathetic, childish, and small. He refused to give the man the satisfaction of an emotional reaction. He remained the absolute master of the frame. When someone tries to drag you into a useless argument, they are fishing for your energy. They are starving for validation, and they want to use your peace of mind to feed themselves. When you practice the silence of provocation, you simply refuse to bite the hook. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't roll your eyes. You look at them with a cold, unblinking detachment. This silence acts as a psychological mirror. When you do not absorb the toxicity thrown at you, the insult bounces off your shield and stays with the person who sent it. They are forced to sit in the awkward, suffocating quietness of their own malice. They realize that their words have absolutely no power over you, and nothing terrifies a bully or a manipulator more than a man they cannot provoke. As Marcus Aurelius famously wrote in his personal journal, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The second pillar of this code is the silence of ambition. We live in a culture consumed by the disease of premature announcement. Social media has trained an entire generation to broadcast their lives before they've actually lived them. People announce their new business ideas before they have made a single sale. They post photos of their gym outfits before they've lost a single pound. They tell everyone about the book they are going to write, the diet they are going to start, or the project they are planning to launch. Why do people do this? The answer lies in a dangerous psychological trap known as social reality. When you share your grand ambitions with your friends, your family, or your followers on social media, you receive an immediate wave of positive feedback. People smile. They congratulate you. They tell you how proud they are of your ambition. Your brain, unable to fully distinguish between social validation and actual achievement, floods your system with a massive hit of dopamine. You receive the psychological reward of success without actually doing any of the brutal, exhausting work required to get there. The result of this dopamine spike is disastrous. Because your brain already feels like it won, you lose the raw hunger, the discipline, and the quiet desperation needed to execute the plan. The talk destroys the walk. You become satisfied with the applause of the crowd before the curtain has even gone up. And months later, when the excitement fades and the hard work becomes boring, you abandon the project entirely, leaving behind nothing but empty words. The code of the strong requires a completely different strategy. It requires you to work in the shadows. It requires the absolute silence of ambition. When you have a goal, whether it is to build a business, transform your body, master a skill, or save a specific amount of money, you must seal your lips. You do not need the validation of your peers to start. You do not need the permission of your family to build. Keep your plans tucked away in the deep recesses of your mind, away from the contaminated opinions of the outside world. There is a profound power in secrecy. When you don't tell anyone what you are doing, you protect your ambition from two major forces: premature praise and cynical doubt. If you tell people your plans, the cynics will try to tell you why it's impossible, planting seeds of self-doubt in your mind before you've even built momentum. If they praise you, they make you lazy. By remaining silent, you starve both forces. Think of yourself as an engineer building a massive dam. If you leave the gates open and let the water flow out constantly in small streams, you will never build any real pressure. But if you close the gates, if you keep the water contained, the pressure builds and builds until it becomes an unstoppable, kinetic force capable of powering an entire city. Your silence is that closed gate. It concentrates your focus, channeling all your mental energy into direct, aggressive action. The strong do not announce their moves. They execute them. They show up months or years later with the finished product, the transformed physique, the successful venture. They let their results make the noise, while they continue to move silently through the fog. The world doesn't need to know what you are constructing until the building is already standing tall against the skyline. Let your execution be your signature. The third pillar of this code is the silence of observation. There's an old saying by the ancient philosopher Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism. He said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that we may listen more than we speak." Yet if you look at modern social gatherings, business meetings, or family dinners, you will see that almost everyone is doing the exact opposite. Most people speak because they are profoundly afraid of the quiet. They view an empty space in a conversation as a threat, an awkward vacuum that must be filled at all costs. So, they ramble. They tell uninspired stories. They gossip about people they don't respect. They brag about things they haven't done, and they blurt out thoughts they haven't fully processed. In their desperation to seem intelligent, engaging, or important, they completely blind themselves to reality. When you are the one doing all the talking, you are learning absolutely nothing new. You are merely recycling information you already possess. Furthermore, you are giving away valuable data. Every time you open your mouth unnecessarily, you reveal your biases, your insecurities, your strategic positioning, and your vulnerabilities to everyone in the room. You become a book that is incredibly easy to read. The person who masters the silence of observation approaches the room with the mindset of a strategist, a hunter, a ghost. When they enter a space, they do not feel the need to command attention through volume. They sit back, they listen, they watch. By choosing to remain quiet while others fight to speak, you grant yourself a massive tactical advantage. You gain the ability to read between the lines. When a man talks excessively, his filter eventually drops. If you give him enough time and enough silence, he will tell you exactly who he is. He will reveal his hidden motives, his secret envies, his insecurities, and his strategic flaws. You will see the subtle hesitation in a liar's eyes. You will see the desperate need for approval behind a bully's loud boast. You will see the opportunities and the details that everyone else is too loud to notice. Robert Greene, in his famous historical study of power, notes that the most powerful figures in history understood that saying less than necessary always makes you appear greater and more profound than you actually are. When your words are few, they carry weight. When you finally choose to speak after a long period of observation, people stop what they are doing to listen to you. Your voice becomes a rare commodity, and rare commodities are always highly valued. You do not need to explain your life, your philosophy, or your choices to anyone. True strength does not need a public defense. It only needs to be lived out in reality. The man who can sit in a room full of people, listen to their arguments, understand their perspectives, and keep his own counsel is a man who cannot be easily manipulated. He holds all the cards because he has all the information, while everyone else is busy throwing theirs on the table. Now let us look at the deeper psychological reality of this entire doctrine. Why is practicing these 3 silences so terrifying to the average person? Why do people find it so incredibly difficult to just hold their tongue? The answer is uncomfortable, because silence forces you to face yourself. When you strip away the noise, the background music, the notifications, and the sound of your own voice, you are left alone with your own mind. You are forced to confront your insecurities, your regrets, your anxieties, and the reality of your current situation. Most people cannot stand this confrontation. They use their own voice as a drug, a constant distraction to drown out the internal void. They talk to convince themselves that they matter, because they are terrified that if they stop talking, they will realize how empty their current foundation truly is. When you consciously adopt the rule of 3 silences, you are doing something far deeper than just practicing a social habit. You are engaging in a profound act of internal sovereignty. You are declaring that your inner peace is non-negotiable. Stoicism reminds us constantly that we have no control over the external world. You cannot control what people say about you, you cannot control the chaos of the economy, and you cannot control the traffic or the weather, but you possess absolute dictatorial control over your internal state. When you choose silence over an emotional reaction, you win the ultimate victory. You win because you kept your clarity while the other person allowed their emotions to destroy their judgment. Think of a lion walking through the jungle. A lion never has to roar constantly to prove to the other animals that he is the apex predator. He doesn't go up to the hyenas to explain his authority or convince them of his strength. He simply walks. His presence, his posture, his calm, unbothered gaze, that is what commands the jungle. Your silence is that walk. It is a quiet, steady radiation of power that doesn't need to beg for applause. I want to challenge you to take this philosophy out of the realm of theory and bring it directly into your daily life. For the next 24 hours, I want you to conduct a ruthless psychological experiment on yourself. The next time you are in a meeting and someone says something you disagree with, do not immediately jump in to correct them. Sit back, observe their body language, and let the space hang. The next time someone cuts you off, insults your intelligence, or tries to spark an argument, do not fire back. Look at them calmly, let their words die in the air, and remain absolutely silent. The next time you achieve a small victory, or formulate a massive new goal for your career, do not reach for your phone to text a friend or post a story. Keep it entirely to yourself. Watch how the energy around you begins to shift. Watch how people start looking at you with a completely different level of focus. They will be confused at first. They will wonder what you are thinking. They will try to fill the silence themselves, revealing even more of their true nature. And eventually, that confusion will turn into a deep, unspoken respect for the mystery and the discipline you have created around yourself. Silence is not a lack of strength. It is the ultimate, concentrated expression of it. It is the heavy iron boundary that keeps the weak, toxic elements of the world outside, while keeping your personal power, your focus, and your energy safely locked within. If you are ready to stop explaining your life away, if you are ready to stop wasting your golden energy on trivial arguments, and if you are fully committed to moving in the shadows from this day forward, let this moment be your starting point. You don't need to announce your commitment to the world. You don't need to explain your transformation to your peers. Let the change happen quietly, deeply, and permanently within the stone walls of your own mind. Master your silence. Guard your energy. Master your life.